Hi there, guys. This is John Evans once again, and today we have a wonderful interview with an old colleague of mine. She's going under the pseudonym of Phoenix or Bridget. She is a former Wiccan. She has a vast store of knowledge in terms of the occult. She is currently a Christian, and she has deep insight in terms of not only the lives of the saints, but in terms of Celtic mythology and the world at large. So Bridget, in terms of your first interest in things Celtic and in terms of witchcraft, what was the earliest inkling that you might be interested in this? What was the one thing which got you interested?
Well, I'm a very big history buff, so I think the biggest thing that really got me was the fact that I was reading about Celtic mythology and Norse mythology and Greek mythology. That's what really got me, because I really like the idea of worshipping women and women and men as equals, because there have been some Christianity differences on which is more important, the masculine or the feminine. Specifically with some more conservative sects, there have been a very big emphasis on the fact that women are behind men, and that really bothered me. So I guess the biggest thing, the one thing that really got me into paganism or Wiccan as a sect of paganism, because paganism is specifically an umbrella. It's like saying you're a Christian. Christians are people who believe in Christ or believe in monotheism, whereas pagans believe in polytheism. But then you have breakdowns of different types, like people who believe in Norse mythology or practice Norse mythology magic or whatever kind of shamanism they practiced. So I definitely think the biggest thing that really got me into paganism and Wiccan as a whole is the fact that the divine were equal, both masculine and feminine.
And if you could explain for us too, how would you view the current role of the shaman, and how would you define magic?
Well, so I was taught that people come to magic either through deity or through an interest in magic. So the biggest thing about magic is belief in it. And shamanism as a rule, well, shamans, I guess it depends again on the faith, is that shamans are seen as very wise people who understand the mystics. So they could be yogis or people who masters, or in the sense of Wiccan, priests or priestesses of a certain sect or order. So they're regarded with a great deal of reverence, but not like worshipful reverence, but in the sense of like you're talking to a great teacher or somebody who knows a great deal about the subject.
Was there any great personal shaman in your life, or any yogi who you followed specifically?
I don't exactly know. I think that's hard to say, because my pathway through paganism, through Wiccan, was mainly of my own, because there are people who go through covens or people who go and are solitary witches. So I think probably a few of the people, I would read a lot of books, and I would read a lot of things that talked about, like let me think of a specific thing. So for example, what is his name? Scott Cunningham. I read that. I think that was my first book that I ever read on being a witch or being a Wiccan. He talked about it. He's very fundamental in what he talks about. A lot of his philosophies are Gardnerian in a sense. If you understand what paganism is, Gardnerian paganism is a specific type of fundamental paganism. So I think a lot of the authors of these books were really big mentors or shamans for me. And I think specifically people who I came in contact with, I don't know, some of them knew more than I did, but I don't think I regarded them as a personal leader or mentor to me, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. So for you, what were certain areas of paganism, though, which dissatisfied you? What were areas where you felt like it didn't quite fit or areas where it challenged your perceptions? Because right now you're a monotheistic Christian.
Mm-hmm.
What was the conversion moment for you?
Well, I think because originally I did come from a Christian background, I think one of the things that really got to me is that even though they would have festivals and things like that, I felt a very great lack of community, because that is one of the things that I do treasure in where I'm at with my Christian faith, is that I do treasure people being around me. I do treasure just the sense of fellowship, and I think that was the biggest thing. And also just I think the other thing that really bothered me is the darker senses of the thing. I mean, well, because you can have darker sense of Christianity, or people who go too far, like very fundamentalist Christians who are burning, the Quran, or burning other types of books, holy books that aren't Christian-esque. So, I mean, both the dark sense of Christianity and the dark sense of paganism bothered me. I do not hold with people conjuring spirits or hexing, because there's 3 laws if you follow, specifically in Wicca. There's ye harm none, which includes yourself. Everything you do to yourself comes back 3-fold. So any action, whether it's a good action or a bad action, comes back to you. And then do as you will, which, I mean, you have free agency, but you also have a very great consequence if you do the wrong thing. So people who don't hold to those, I feel like it's not very good, because if you're going around and you're messing in a sense with powers you did not understand, you can get into a lot of trouble. And so when I was practicing paganism, I stuck a lot to the light, because I mean, the main thing I wanted out of paganism was a sense of my own power as a woman, and also the fact that the masculine and the feminine were equal, because that's what I think. I mean, I know there are feminists out there who want most of the power, or they're feminists, but they're very, in a sense, they're anti-masculine. But I feel like a balance of the two is a great thing. I mean, whatever you believe, having a balance is very important, because, I mean, whoever brought us to this earth, they did not intend for men to be greater than women, or women to be greater than men. They intended us to toil together and to, I guess, come together in love and friendship. And that might sound hippie-esque, but I feel like it's very true, especially for today, with all the darkness that's in the world. I mean, the news and everything else is just so sad, and it makes me really sad. So that's why I try when I was, and even now when I was a Christian, I do my best to focus on loving my neighbor, whether he be Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, whatever it is. I try to make sure that I love him. Sorry, that was a wee bit long.
No, not at all, actually. No. And as always, your answers are quite insightful, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about, first of all, the different divisions within witchcraft, the fact that it isn't simply a blanket term. Obviously, we both oppose it for various different reasons, but it's easy, and I think we all fall into this trap, depending on what denomination you're in, of looking at the other, looking at the unknown, and simply trying to demonize it. I truly and deeply feel that there are demonic entities, and there are dark principalities involved with any form of Wicca, because you don't know what you're conjuring, even if you're dealing with a lighter element. But I do think that the sentiments behind it, without question, I can see how, if you come from a strict patriarchal background, it would be easy to see Wiccan outlets as a means of empowerment. Now, out of curiosity, in your own journey, what kind of dark rumors did you hear about basically pagan activities around you? Did you hear of any activities which were specifically quite negative? Did you meet any practitioners who were involved in darker elements of Wicca? Or was that mostly just simply hearsay or out there on the web?
Well, so there's a website one that I went to called Celtic Connections, and they talk a lot about paganism and things like that. And they did talk about like protecting yourself, and that if you aren't careful, you can really interact with some very dark forces. But I never really met anybody who was involved with that. I might have had brushes, like
very impersonal brushes. Like I might have met somebody, we might have talked for a minute, and then we left. But I never developed any kind of a relationship with people who did that kind of thing, because I think I would debate the term of there being a little bit of darkness and everything, because I feel if you approach something, so for example, I would meditate. That's one of the things I still do now, actually, is I would meditate and I would make sure to word myself in a sense. Like I would draw a circle, or I would put mental protections up. And I think if you it's like poking the beast. If you're meddling in dark things are coming to you. But if you're just focusing on the light, then most often things like that won't come to you. It's a lot of your energy that you put out. I still believe that any kind of energy you put out, whether it's good, bad, or like sad or disappointed or negative, it'll come back to you, or it will attract those kind of people or those kind of beings, because I still believe there are dark forces in this world, and that's why I try to make sure to focus on the light, because I think that God or the being who created us, whether it be the one or masculine or feminine, I do believe that if we stick to the positive side of things, that he will or she will protect us, or they will protect us. Because if we are, I know, in a sense, putting good energy out into the universe, it'll come back to us. But if we are poking or meddling with bad things, it'll come back to us. So in a sense, no, I have not come into direct contact with anything dark, nor do I ever hope to, because I have heard stories, and I would rather not experience that at all.
No, absolutely, I agree 110%. And definitely one of the great things about, our current work is trying to make sure people are aware of the reality of course, the dark end of spirituality, but also to, the light, which does exist. And out of curiosity, in your experience, you were talking about how you would try to work your spells in a circle, or in the middle of a circle. Could you elaborate a little bit more on how that exactly works? Because it seems to be a common use of magic, where you create a ring and you're at the center of that ring.
Well, so it's not exactly a ring. So, well, I guess it depends on who you're talking to. I envisioned my circle as, so I would draw the circle, and it would be like two halves of an egg coming together. I would be protected below me and above me, so it's kind of like a sphere that I'm in. Because one of the sayings that I still believe in is as above, so below. So as outside is the same as the inside. So, and so I would, if I were doing a ritual or a spell, I would cast a circle, and then I would invite the elements to come protect me, and then I would invite the goddess and the god to come protect me, because I never think you can have too much protection. And then I would do my spell, but I always came from a place of giving when I would do my spells, even if it was for myself, because I know it would benefit other people. Because even I would do house cleansings, or I would do like a healing spell for somebody, and so I would make sure that they came from a pot of, I would, in a sense, I would meditate after the circle was there, and I would think about what I was about to do and what kind of emotional energy I wanted to put into it, and then I would go from that. And I mean, I think the same thing holds today, because I mean, when you pray, for example, and this might be seen as heretical, but when you pray, you're putting out energy. You're asking your deity, you're asking whoever you pray to please help you and please provide you with things. So you're putting your thoughts and your energy into action, per se. So I mean, I still consider, I don't think of my prayers as I'm sending magical forces out into the world. I never thought of magic as the Harry Potter type of magic, where you wave a wand and look at these beautiful bright sparks coming out at the end. No, I wouldn't think about it that way. I would just think about it as I'm putting my energy into action. So that's how I thought about it.
No, that's incredible. And seriously, I love how you draw a distinction. I love how you always draw distinctions between the Harry Potter kind of hocus pocus form of magic and, the actual form of magic is, I mean, as I go off on my travels, and as we try to combat negative forces through prayer and through meditation. Many people think that, life as a Christian, when you come in contact with negative forces, is like something out of The Exorcist, where of course you have the demonic entity and you're there with the crucifix, and basically there's pea soup and the head rolls. It doesn't work out like that. As someone who is actively worked within the Catholic rite of exorcism and who's worked in terms of exorcism, I know for a fact that it's never that simplistic. It's never that straightforward. Now, granted, magic is a far cry from working within the exact same realm of exorcism, but it's definitely related. In your personal experience, what was the most powerful magical experience you have ever had, good or bad?
Well, I think the most powerful one was last August. I went to a ritual to celebrate the full moon, and also in a way to celebrate Loch, or I think it's also called Litha, I think. Well, I called it Loch because that was the Celtic translation. And so basically you're celebrating one of the first harvests to come about. And so I went to a ritual. This was with a group. They're called a Grove, which means they come from a oh boy, what is the word? A druid background. And so we went to that, and they were working with the goddess Lilith, who a lot of people have seen as a demoness. But again, it's all about perception, and so they saw her as a goddess of of like the physical nature, but also of independence and self-worth and of self-recognition. And so it was really powerful because after we did the ritual, or we cast the circle and whatnot, we told one thing that we would hope to gain from being there, from like the Lilith's power. And I wanted to feel confident in who I was as a person, not just with my faith or with my magic, but also as a person, because I was going back to my family's home because my sister was getting married. And so I was very scared that going back I would be influenced by them, or that they would demean my faith. And so I asked for that, and I felt that. Like, it was such a palpable sense of energy, and it was quite fascinating and quite just magical to put it any other way. And it was a good magic. Like, I think as people, we can sense things. We have a feeling of when bad things are about to happen or when good things are about to happen. And it felt right, and it felt good. It came from a place of happiness and fellowship and of light. And so that was probably the most powerful working I've been with. And now I think there are about maybe 20 people there, maybe less, and it was quite wonderful.
And how would you describe these group meetings where there is energy? Because one thing which I've read on a lot of online forums, and I've heard from a lot of practitioners of both forms of light and dark, has been there is a way of channeling the energy in a room with a group of people, which is very different than if you're working solo. And I find this even with being a devout Catholic, working within a Catholic prayer circle. If you're praying the rosary together, there's definitely a different sense of communal energy. And as a Catholic, just going through those prayers individually, while that's important, and while that it's a very special kind of meditation, together you do have a greater sense of energy. On your end, how would you describe those collective meetings? Were they coven-esque, or were they more communal? How would you describe it?
Well, I think of them as more communal. Well, I don't know exactly, because so the sense of paganism is that we worship that, we thank the deity for helping us, but we work with them. It's like I don't know, like how some Christians, they thank God for what he has done for them, but in a way they work side by side with God, because he does his work and we do ours. We, in a sense, well, whatever deity you have, we meet them in the middle. And so it was a sense of communion, but also of community and of fellowship. Because we felt like we had, I don't know, given something back in energetic terms, and of worshipping terms. But the energy is very hard to explain, because I have been to many different kinds of Christian or other kind of places. Like I've gone to Catholic Mass. I've been a part of a Seventh-day Adventist. I've been to a Mormon church. I've been to these different kinds of congregations and wards and communities, and they each, in a way, have their own special kind of energy around them. But some of the most potent ones I have felt in either some of the most reverent places or in the most loving places. I mean, so the energy is very, I think it's because we say like these different things. We say, well, so this is what I want, and this is what I need, and so we put it in blunter terms. So I feel like it's in a way more focused, but I don't know if it's quite as pure as some of the more Christianic energies, because there's so many different types of people there, and they have so many different kinds of bases they're coming from, or, you know, reasons why they're there, whether they're good, they're not good, or they're just in the middle. And so the energy, though, is just quite unique. And I guess, and again, it also depends on the people you're with. As they say, you know, who you surround yourself with is who you're going to be like. And so the energy was a mix of good and okay, I guess. But it did feel really magical, because it felt like we were all there. We were all there in a sense for the same thing, even though we came from different spots in our life, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. You know, without question, I think that communal prayer is one of those staples of human civilization, and I think there is a kind of great power and beauty to any place where people can meet together in common fellowship in the sake of love, you know, for love. Now, you know, in the past, when I would call you up, you would often talk about the use of crystals and amulets. Could you enlighten us about how these are used and in what specific ways?
Well, so I'm not a total encyclopedia on that, but I can tell you some things. So different stones have different usages. Like quartz crystal is seen as an amplifier. Obsidian is seen as an anchoring stone. Amethyst is seen as a stone for love and healing because of its pink and airy nature, and air has a lot to do with communication because it's what we breathe. So it's kind of like all of these stones have different symbology to them. Let me see. Oh, there's different types. Any kind of a red stone is seen as having to do with any kind of anything to do with passion or blood, or there's a garnet specifically. They're used to calm and to just reflect. That you can get worry stones where you can think about your worries, and in a sense you can just like let them go as you're rubbing the stone. There's all kinds of things. I mean, there's things you can do with stones, things you can do with herbs, things you can do with, candles. There's all kinds of different ways to use energy if you want to do that. And again, it's like, if you've ever read the book of the Pearl, this pearl that these people wanted, it was very valued, and though it was not like, how can I say this? It wasn't evil or good on itself, but the people who had the stone, they used it for evil purposes. They wanted to get at it. So it's all about the intention you go with it. So if you're on the bright side, quartz can be used in healing spells because, especially quartz crystals, it can amplify your energy. Like, for example, I did a spell one time where I had 3 white candles, which signify healing and positivity and light and purity. And then I had a quartz crystal, and I took an image of the person who I had the consent of. I never do magic without consent. I never did, because that is again, that's going against harm ye none. If you're doing it without their consent, you're in a way harming their free agency. So I took the materials and I put the quartz crystal on top of the image, and I would write my own spells. And so that's how it works. It just depends on the purpose of the stones that you have and what you want to use them for.
And I've heard at times that you can transfer energy basically into an object over an extended period of time, and it can be used as sort of an anchor or some sort of a root of power. Is this true in your own personal experience? Have you encountered this, or are stones just stones? I mean, it seems like they have personalities in terms of your relationship to them over time.
Well, I think everything around us has some type of, it can take an energy of a type. I mean, so I guess it depends if you want to put energy into a stone, but it's not like a root of power. This is one thing Scott Cunningham talks about in his book, how if we see certain things as, oh, well, I can't do this spell without this lucky amulet, then we're gonna be, SOL, out of luck. But if you see your power coming from the world around you and from deity and from yourself, that's better. But I believe you can transfer energy into objects, but you also can cleanse them as well. If you use moonlight or salt and water, or even water, you can do that, and it's just I guess how you perceive things. In a way, it's like the book of Alice in Wonderland. It's all in your head. It's all about how you perceive things. I mean, even in the Christian faith, we see that we are, in a way, the master of our life. Yes, God is in there, and God is, or Allah, or whatever you believe in. Creativity, the divine, is always in our lives, but we have the agency to control what happens to us. And so that's how it translates over to paganism, is that we see physical things in our lives and we see, oh, well, I can do this and this will happen. It's the same with Christianity. Well, I want this, and so if you want it bad enough, and if you have a positive attitude, I think you'll get it. It all depends on how you perceive things. Our life is all about what we make it.
And I agree 110%. And you were referring earlier to the power of cleansing objects as well. Is this something which you used to do on a regular basis? Was this something which you did to clear out sort of the chakra of your room, or was it something you only did occasionally with the objects or the amulets which you used?
Well, people Wiccans see as everything having some kind of energy in them, or if you cleanse them, they're kind of like a blank slate for energy to come onto. So I would do cleansings for houses, and in that kind I would use what is called a smudge stick, which has white sage in it, or different properties depending on what you want. And so I would cleanse an area, or I would even use I would go further and draw and cast a circle and call the elements and cleanse it, and then use sage. So I don't know if I would do it on a regular basis, but if I was doing a spell, I would, in a way, I would cleanse the area with a sage stick or using a broom, just to kind of clear the air, because any place you make a circle is considered sacred space, because it's a space where, in a way, you're letting yourself be vulnerable to energies. And so if you create a good sacred space, then you're fine. So I guess I once did a cleansing for friends of mine. They had jewelry that their grandmother had given them, and they wanted to make sure it was all right. They were going on a really big cleansing binge because a friend of theirs was coming over, and they wanted to make sure it was all good and energy wise. And so I would kind of feel the energy in the different types of jewelry, and if I didn't feel something well, I would put it in the water with the salt, or I would tell them to leave it out where the moon could touch it, or leave it by a window, so that it could be cleansed. So I mean, some people cleanse more than others, and I think I was probably a middle of the road cleanser.
I mean, and I think it helps illuminate a lot about, the properties between the material and the spiritual. That the material does have always a soul with it, or some kind of a sense of energy, particularly if we're talking about the life forces. Now, in your own conversion experience, what specifically about Christian theology, what about it satisfied you more than paganism, apart from simply the community? Was there any doctrinal things which you found to be more enriching or more rewarding?
Well, so I will not state what kind of Christianity sect I'm in, but what I believe in with Christianity is I still believe in the equality of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. I do believe that I have a heavenly mother, and I do believe that she is there for me. That attracted me because I felt that was right. What also attracted me was a sense of community. I mean, I felt, in a sense, like I was trying to grasp after pagan community, but I never truly got a really good sense of it. I mean, I went to a few pagan festivals, but I felt cut off from it a little bit. I did not feel like I had a sense of community. So I guess the community aspect of it I really liked, and I like the fact that where I'm at with my faith, they believe in brotherly and sisterly kindness, not doing it because somebody's a charity case or because they just need help and you're trying to get your Christian duty out of the way, but that they really genuinely mean it. And that's something in this world, in this time, that's hard to find. And I really liked how, again, the energy, it was purer. I mean, it was much more euphoric, and it was much more closer to what I had been looking for. And I think I came back because I really understood how I divined the divine, if that makes sense. How I felt about God or Father or whoever he was or whoever he is, and Mother too. I finally had come to the realization about how I felt about all of that. And so coming back to Christianity, a lot of it was because it felt right. A lot of the principles I agreed with, and because it was, I don't know, I guess it was just a lot about how I felt about it. And I think that's as close as I can come to saying why I came back.
It's more than in-depth and more than beautiful. Now, earlier you drew a distinction, obviously, which, for you and me, we know it, the distinction between Harry Potter-esque magic and, of course, the magic that's actually evoked by those practitioners knowledgeable in arcane material. How would you define the difference between the two?
Well, so, for example, we'll put this into practical use. So people who are Catholic, they go to Mass, and they believe that when they are offered the wafer and the water, that it is actually, that has been transformed into the blood and the body of Christ. So in a sense, that's kind of a sense of energy transformation or magic in a way, is that energy, that belief is infused into it. And so a lot of what magic is, to me anyways, is what I believe. I mean, I'm not speaking for the whole entire
No, of course, yeah.
But what I believe magic is the transference of energy inside of you, especially will, your belief. I mean, people have moved mountains because of their belief. They have traveled over continents. They have done horrific things or wonderful things because of a belief. I mean, Hitler, he killed over I don't know how many Jews, or the Romans. They built these amazing cities that still stand. The ruins are still there today, and it's all because of belief. And so that's what I believe magic is. It's an energy. If you feel it, I mean, I felt it before. I felt it leave me or come into me. I felt that. And so it's a sense of your will becoming real. It's a sense of your intention becoming real. That's what magic is to me. It's like, oh well, I wish to have more love in my life. Okay, well, you can do a spell for it, or you can pray for it. If you pray for it, it's the same thing. It's like, I am asking God, I'm asking the universe for this thing. And so that's what magic is to me. I mean, it happens every single day, is that we will things into being. We will things into coming to us. I mean, it doesn't happen automatically. Like, oh, I wish for an elephant, and an elephant appears in the room. It would be a wee bit startling. But I wish to see an elephant. Oh, right, well, hey, let's plan a trip to the zoo. And you find that you have funds for that. You find that you have people want to come with, and it works out somehow. I mean, it's I feel like it's all through our intention and our belief that things happen.
I agree 110% that that's definitely a form of invoking that kind of power. Now, could you also illuminate for us the symbolism of the pentagram? At least because I feel like it's a symbol where too often people don't realize its exact application and its exact meaning. And obviously, I mean, like, you know, obviously, I know you're not an encyclopedia, but you are sure close to an encyclopedia, because you're...
Oh, well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. So, the pentagram, so you have a circle, which means it stands for never-ending, or protection, or sacredness. And then you have the star, which stands for the 4 elements, plus the soul, the spirit, the thing that drives us all. That's what it stands for. It's a symbol of light and of hope. People have used it for darkness, but it's like the cross, you know, for Christians. Some people have taken the cross and used it to burn and destroy and create havoc. Well, it's the same with the pentagram. It's a symbol. Its intention originally is a symbol of hope and light and peace, and of unity also, because the circle, it's a complete thing, and the star, you have the 4 elements, and then you have the element of spirit. So that's what the pentagram stands for, or the pentacle, if you want to be correct. So that's what it means.
That reminds me of there's a great British rock band called Pentangle. And yeah, often when I'm out and about and I'm on a long car ride, I'll play them, and they have a very mystical, kind of misty aura, almost a druidic aura. Now with the druids, how would you classify their form of magic? Because you're telling us that Grove, or a society called Grove, was involved in them?
Well, so druids, they are definitely more originated with Celtic mythology, because that's where the druids originated. Though, okay, to shed a little light, Stonehenge was way before the druids, people. The druids might have worshipped there, but it's their understanding of Stonehenge was very little. So, anyways, but druids were seen as very wise men and women who understood the mysteries of the divine, of the afterlife, of spirituality, and of magic. And so they're called a grove because they're definitely more nature-based. Covens are more magical-based, and circles, I think they're more like deity-related. So, and again, it depends on what each person defines as that. So it could be different to somebody else, but to me, I derived it to mean that a grove was people who worshipped more earth-based and more druid circles, whereas a coven was more magical, Wiccan-esque based, and a circle was more of a pagan, I guess, lighter sense of the term and worshipping of the deity.
I think that definitely eliminates all when it comes to our shared Celtic past, because I mean, you as a true Scot and me as an Irishman, we continue to go back to our ancestral past. We still have the claddagh as a symbol. We continue to turn back to the shamrock. And for a lot of people, these are simply stock images, and they don't realize that they carry with them a lot of authority and a lot of potential power as talismans of great good and great evil. But, with the shamrock, particularly. Now, out of curiosity, did you do any reading on Patrick and his use of the shamrock in his time as a missionary in Ireland?
No, I haven't done too much reading about that, but I'm sure it's very interesting to hear about.
No, absolutely. And about Celtic mythology in particular, were you ever deeply steeped in it? Is there anything you could tell us about maybe people's misconceptions? Because you were telling us about Stonehenge, and that's awesome. I mean, I never knew that about Stonehenge, that the Druids still worship it.
Well, so I did a good amount of research on Celtic mythology. For example, the goddess Brigid.
Yeah.
She was very much. She was a part of a threefold goddess, which had Ceridwen, Brigid as the maiden, Ceridwen as the crone. Oh no, was Brigid the mother? But she was a part of a threefold goddess, and so I learned about Brigid and Ceridwen in particular, and about Ceridwen's a very interesting story, and about a little bit about Brigid's story. But I remember Ceridwen's the best, and again, it's how you perceive these gods and goddesses. Because some people can take their meaning to be dark, some people can take their meaning to be light. But Ceridwen, she was a goddess who she was trying to get her son, because I think he was blind, or he was disabled in some sense, and so she was making this potion for him, but unfortunately the lad who was studying the cauldron got the good effects instead, and so she kept on chasing him in different animal forms in different seasons. So it's an explanation of the seasons of the year. A lot of Celtic mythology, one of the reasons why I love it so much is it's so rich with stories, and like Bran the Blessed, and Llw, and all these different gods, and Dagda, and so I like how rich the mythology was, and that's one of the reasons why I was so drawn to it. Especially Dagda, the sheer swift hand. There's an author, Stephen R. Lawhead. He writes a series called The Paradise War, and he talks about Dagda, and about the god seen through people back then, through Irish and Scottish eyes. And it's a very good book, and I like how he perceives Dagda. Dagda, in his sense, was the all-knowing God, the one who was over them all. And some mythologies see it differently, but I like his perception of Dagda, and just the different types of mythology you can get into. So Celtic mythology is very interesting. It's not quite as dark as some people can see it, but again, it's the research that you do, and it's what you take out of it.
Reminds me of some of the deities in George R. Martin's work. You know, you have the crone and Bran. You know, Bran.
I think his deities seem a bit more dark, but again, it's how he took some of the Celtic mythology and twisted it a wee bit. But I mean, I'm not dissing any Game of Thrones lovers out there. Yeah.
No. And also, too, out of curiosity, are there any authors who you think did co-opt Celtic mythology well? I know you and I grew up a lot with C.S. Lewis and with J.R.R. Tolkien, but are there any other authors who you feel just nailed working in a Celtic mythos or in depicting real magic at work?
I definitely, again, Stephen R. Lawhead, a few authors make me cry, and he does such a good job with Celtic mythology and with working with the different aspects of it. I think he really nailed it. I don't know of any other authors. Tolkien did a very good job. C.S. Lewis, of course, with Narnia and all of his other works, did a wonderful job. Other than that, I can't really think of any others. I'm sure there's other ones. Well, so an author that is also pretty good about talking about like kind of caveman worship is Jean M. Owl with her caveman Clan of the Cave Bear series, or Earth's Children series, rather. She did a very good job of talking about deity back then, and about the difference of worshipping masculine versus feminine. Very good book, though I would not recommend your children reading it, because it is a wee bit more adult in nature, but it is a very good book series, and it's very good about talking about that, and especially about how things can change, like how the perceptions of people can change. So I would recommend Stephen R. Lawhead first if you're really interested in Celtic mythology. He does a very good job. and so I would definitely recommend him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, of course, one of the most common images of witchcraft around the world is the cauldron. But most people don't realize that the cauldron is not necessarily a, it didn't start out as an instrument of magic. It was just how to heat your house, right? That was basically the original meaning.
There is some symbolism still today for the cauldron, because the cauldron represents the womb, and feminine, and so it is a representation of witches, but no, I didn't cook all my things, and I didn't do my potions. I never made a potion in a cauldron.
You sell it on eBay, right? Just like a list of all these potions with for medicinal uses. Local witch doctor.
No. It's just a symbolism of the feminine and of things like that. Just how the wand, in a way, is a symbol of the masculine because of its phallus-like nature. Not that we're going to go into that, but
Sigmund Freud. It's
Yes, different things like that. So yeah, everything has a symbolism in a way. That's how people back then really communicated, is that signs and symbols had great meaning to them, and they could read depths of meaning into different signs and symbols.
Now, of course, one of the most famous depictions of witches around a cauldron is in Macbeth. And of course, I know you are an avid reader of Shakespeare too. You can quote Shakespeare at will.
Trouble, toil and bubble, fire burning, cauldron bubble. Yes, I know Hamlet.
Yes. So with Macbeth, out of curiosity, what is your take on that play's perception of prophecy? Because prophecy really is what drives Macbeth to basically commit acts which are part of his negative nature, and it brings out, frankly, some of the worst in him. And yet he's a great poet. He has positive characteristics.
I would definitely say that he's very interesting, but John, I have to go.
Oh, no worries. Well, okay. It's been a lovely recording, Bridget, and seriously, we hope to catch you soon on the podcast. Yes. All the best.
Awesome, thank you. Bye.
Cheers.